everybody. Hope you're doing marvelously well. We're big, we're bad, I'm in black, and we're with Mr. Christian Kohler. How the devil are you, my friend?
I'm great. Good to be back on the channel. Each time I'm here, we got something exciting to announce, right?
Something new and nutritious. Yes, we have our very good friend, Mr. Ulrich Wild. I think there's something about Ulrich that I absolutely love. He's got a great dry sense of humor as well as being incredibly talented. I think it's that Swiss-German kind of thing that he has.
Maybe, yeah.
What I love about him, well, many things because he's a wonderful guy, but what I love about him is he does a lot of recording using inexpensive gear. And has, even though he grew up actually recording in very expensive studios, because for those of you that don't know, he was Terry Date's second in charge for quite a few albums. And if you grew up in the 90s listening to rock music, the guy was Terry Date. Terry Date was probably one of the, and probably still is one of the best rock and metal producers of that period. And Ulrich learned under him, so that's huge. I mean, he got to work with Pantera and probably most famously Static X and
many more, like Incubus, Slipknot. The list goes on. Like some of the most legendary metal bands. And I agree, he actually uses some very interesting gear, and you can see that he has built his rig, like his guitar recording rig, because this course, I think we haven't said it, is about dialing in heavy guitar tones. Yeah. So you can see he has built this rig over decades, and he knows exactly what to use. He has like a lot of different speakers, different cabs, different mics, but he just knows what to do exactly. And it's exciting to watch someone like him with his experience. Watch him dialing in heavy guitar tones. We got to tell people, so this is a Kohler Audio Cult course, but Warren actually filmed it. And I edited it, so we are releasing this together, but I haven't been there. But the studio looks amazing.
It's great.
The footage.
It's purpose built. I mean, his guitar room is also his drum room, and it's tiny. And when he does like big rock records, he does it in there. I think he's the master of just taking inexpensive gear, small spaces, and making massive rock records. And all of his gear is affordable. I mean, his mic pre's are ART mic pre's. His guitar sound is mixed through a Behringer.
Rack mixer, like a rack mixer kind of thing. Yeah, he blends the different mics. He uses the mic pre's of the Behringer rack mixer, and he even blends the mics with that mixer to tape, so to say. But I think it's like people can learn a lot by somebody like him, because, like you said, it's not about the expensive gear. It's about knowing what you want to achieve sonically and building your own rig so you can achieve that. What he does in the course is he shows people all his different guitar speakers. And that's what I like, because I'm a guitar speaker guy. I still feel like guitar speaker is like the most defining part of the signal chain for heavy guitars. So he's using, I think, 3 4x12 cabs with 12 different guitar speakers, mics them up, shows how to mic them up, then he blends them, and then he EQs like the mics. So you can be a part of every step of the whole process. It's interesting. And people can download the multitracks, so they can, like there are multitracks of every mic, every speaker, every mic pre even. I think you two went through all his mic pre's, right? From Behringer up to the expensive stuff, the API stuff. And so that's a lot.
And he's easy to learn from because he's just very factual. It's just like, this is what you do. This is how I do it. With a little bit of humor in there, a little of Swiss-German humor.
For me, it was entertaining, but I'm German, so I don't know what humor is anyway. But it didn't feel that dry to me, to be honest. No, but it's a great course. So people, if you are already a member of Kohler Audio Cult of the Academy, you will get this course for free. So I guess either time to become a member of Kohler Audio Cult or time to just buy the course, either or. Both a good decision.
Yeah, marvelous. So without further ado, we're actually going to show a snippet of the course here. So let's join Ulrich Wild, where he tells us a little bit about how he records heavy electric guitars.
Enjoy.
So we're going to plug this one in first, but to prepare it, An important thing is to make sure that nothing rattles. And so what I always do is I take the wheels off these suckers, like so. So they rest on these things instead of these chattery old bits. There we go. Nice and stable. Make sure it's not rattling. Sometimes these handles, depending on their design, these ones as one piece. Make sure that's screwed in tight. Same thing with the other one. That stuff can rattle. If it does rattle, duct tape's your friend. If tightening the screws doesn't do the job. The SM57 is kind of my go-to mic still. I know a lot of people use them, but there's a reason for it. I like to close mic them, like halfway in the cone, and we'll see that in a minute. All right, I like to label my microphones with the numbers where they're plugged in, so I can keep track of them more easily. I like to take the grill, the screen off of these things, and you can really see where the speakers are at, and sometimes those things rattle as well. In this instance, it's really hard to get this thing out. It's like really built in. So the trick is to use a flashlight and shine it in here so you can see where your speaker is, because it may not, I don't know if that shows up on camera, but the idea is to use a flashlight. All right, so here we are. You see the center of the cone. I never place anything directly in the middle of it. I don't see the point of it. For our purposes right now, we're just going to try to place each microphone in front of each cone, like halfway between the outside here and the line of the center. So as you can see, that's about the middle. I usually place it right up against the grill, so they're all the same distance from each other. We are in a room that's not very bright and doesn't have a lot of reflections. Sometimes you find yourself in a room that does, and you want to contain splashy kind of reflections coming back into the microphones and causing, like bad juju. So what I do is I build a box around the microphones, and you can use like foam blocks. We can use the stands to make kind of like a makeshift rail and put packing blankets over it. Have these old trusty things from my old studio, and I use these oftentimes. They're just basically baffles that I place around these things to dampen, the sound from flying around. I actually did a shootout between the Focusrite amps, preamps, this API build out, these other Focusrites, these things, these audience. And wouldn't you know it, these little $35 a channel preamps, maybe, if that much, actually beat out all these other ones. In my book, these speakers sound all pretty cool, depending on what it is you're after. A little more scoop, a little bit brighter, a little, to accommodate the riff, like however your playing style, the amp. That's where the joy lies. Everybody hears things a little differently. Different hands of, like the way you attack the strings. One speaker works for you better than another. It's always fun to, have these options. We have our new cabinet. That's the alternative cabinet, lighter cabinet. It's a little bit unfair to cram the EVH at the same setting through this cabinet, because these speakers are intended for cleaner sounds, but just for the fun of it, let's have a quick gander of what these sound like. That's the cream back right here. A little more mid-rangey sounding. A little smoother and raunchier at the same time for G12 CS. And then, of course, a little darker, a little more standard metal sounding to me. Let's move on to the third cabinet for more speakers. We have 2 more to go to. Here we have a Swamp Thing and Celestion G12 K100. I think that's just like a super heavy magnet. Yeah, and they all sound very different. The Swamp Thing on the K100, the 12K100, are probably the most different sounding of the speakers that I have. This speaker here is a Celestion Century, and they're very light. They have a different kind of magnet, and when you lift them up, you almost feel cheated. You know, it's like, this thing can't sound any good. They sound really cool. They're a little different, but they're 8-ohm speakers, which is why they're in this cabinet. Nowhere near as much low end as some of these other ones. Let's see what it sounds like compared to this one. You know, this thing could add a lot of good overtones to a darker speaker because this one's kind of bright. But as we have seen, they all have their own thing, and depending on the amp and your setup and your guitar and the way you play your guitar, one speaker will probably tickle your fancy over others. We're going to place all these microphones kind of like as a square in front of the speaker, so they're all kind of in the same range as each other. Now the square thing didn't quite work out for me because, well, this thing has a whole different thing going on. Let's go find out what these 4 different microphones sound like on this one speaker. All right, so we have our 4 microphones all on the V30. We could have used any of these speakers. I figured we used the V30 because a lot of you guys know this one. We're going to record these 4 microphones, SM57, Sennheiser 421, an MXL DX2, and the Biodynamics TG I51. So every microphone has its own thing going on. So just as much as the speakers make a big difference, so do microphones, along with their placement. So now that we've played around with different speakers, with different microphones, with different preamps, we're going to actually make a guitar sound for the first riff on here. Truth be told, you could pick any of these speakers and go from there. Right now, I think this Albion cabinet kind of suits this song and this riff. Once you decide on a cabinet, on speakers, on microphones and preamps, it's time to set it up and get a good sound going. Your decision might be made for you because you only have one microphone and one preamp and one cabinet, and that's pretty easy to get going with that. Sometimes a lot of choices just cause confusion and can actually hinder your creativity. So we're gonna switch back to 57s and one 421. We're sticking with this Albion cabinet. Since we have two Albions in here, we're just gonna mic up one. 57 and a 421 on the Albion speaker, a 57 on the V30, and a 57 on the Reaper. So we have a healthy mix of the two Albion mics and the V30. The Reaper doesn't seem, it brings a little bit of a glassy thing to it that I'm not a fan of right now. Could work for something else, different sound, different riff, different song, just not right now. We got this going through the bus. We're going into here. Let's do some tone shaping. So we're sucking out some annoying low frequency stuff or lower mids and some bite stuff that kind of, you know, we're clearing out some room for the bass and the snare, and with the vocals, you know, we're keeping in mind what's going to happen in the mix, and really you can tell how much shaping you can do with a powerful EQ. It's all a very narrow band is right now, adding a little top end, but you know the idea is to have a sound that's well-rounded, has enough distortion, has enough low end, a lot of enough bite, you know, whatever it is you're looking for when you're making that decision of what your album or your song, your project should sound like at this stage, but you don't want to paint yourself into a corner in such a way that you have to re-record things, although that's sometimes not the worst thing that can happen. I remember a project where every 3 days a new amp came in and they just re-recorded all the songs again with the new amp until they finally settled down. One trick that I've learned is that I like to use one speaker to actually listen to what I'm doing with the guitar sound. So now that we have this guitar sound, I'm going to print it, and I found that the biggest sound comes from having a doubled track, one on the left, one on the right. So we're going to do that now and see how we go. So Ronnie was kind enough to give us another track. This one will be on the right side. All right, let's have a listen to both of them together. Okay, so that's how I like to do rhythm guitars. It's my basic approach. Everything's pretty much based on that. Either way, they need to work together. They don't need to be super tight always. Sometimes that's kind of makes things smaller. Sometimes it's good to have them, you know, bigger and wilder sounding. Sometimes you do want to have it super controlled. If you want them super controlled, you want to make sure that the chunks that you're playing, you know, that's all playing style with your hand. Sometimes like the strings in the headstock introduce some noise. You know, want to dampen strings that fly around, that, you know, get in your way. Whatever makes it happen for you. That's what's important, you know. Time to do some clean guitar sounds. I sometimes record a room mic to give it a little bit of space and depth. Sometimes, you know, pan the dry signal to one side and the room side to the other one. Switched amps to that Albion. We also switched the cabinet. This amp has two drive, has a drive and a gain. Like the drive, he explained it to me, like kind of cycles through the various Marshall heads. And then the gain is just like a gain function for it. It's pretty cool. Well, the wonderful thing about this is there are no presets. You make your own way. You forge your own path into the world of speakers and microphones. You use what you can get your hands on, and part of the limitations that you have is what causes you to be creative and come up with new sounds. And rather than focusing on copying other people's sounds, in my opinion, it's just as important, if not more so, to come up with your own thing, with your own signature sound that other people wish to copy later. It doesn't do us any good if everybody sounds the same. And I actually have a bit of an aversion to that. Doesn't mean you can't be inspired by other people's sounds, and you very much should be. But just because you have the same gear and the same setup and the same microphones, all of that is part of their sound. But really, it's their hands and their playing style and the songs that make as much of a difference, if not more so.
Hi, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that. Thank you, Ulrich, for creating such a wonderful course. Of course, you can, about the course, you can buy it underneath here if you want to get the course, but you can also upgrade it and get it for free if you join Christian's Cola Audio Cult.
Thanks for having me, Warren. It's always a pleasure.
You're welcome. Thanks, everyone. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, au revoir, adios, tot ziens, goodbye.
See you in hell. Bye-bye.